Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to the JAKIB Pregame Show. Week 8 edition here on the JAKIB Pregame Show. Eagles taking on the Cincinnati Bengals today. I'm your host, Zander Krause, joined by Dan Sileo. John McMullen with me this morning. Boys, big game set to kick off today in Cincinnati. A 1 p.m. Eastern game at Paycor Stadium. Eagles just 3-9-2 versus the Cincinnati Bengals all time and have never won in Cincinnati's. Big Sills, how you doing on this Sunday? Johnny Mac, I'll come to you in a second.
All good, man. I mean, hey, I got to tell you, and I heard John take a you know what on your take there with that. Hey, the Eagles have never won in Cincinnati. I'm like, is that back in the Ken Anderson days and all that?
Yeah,
I mean,
they
guys today don't really. It's a great story for fans. It is. It's for fans and for media, but players go like this. Who was on the team then? I mean, didn't they have different funky looking jerseys with the Bengals?
They haven't been there since 2016.
Yeah, that stuff.
It's like what I people are obsessed by that. I'm like,
doesn't matter.
Nick Sirianni, Merrill asked him that question on Friday. And he's like, I don't know. I didn't even know. He's not been here. This is the first time he'll coach the Eagles, obviously in Cincinnati. It's not meaningful. It's not meaningful at all.
I'll tell you what is meaningful. T. Higgins has officially been ruled out for this game.
Well, that's very meaningful.
Yeah, I'm coming right to you.
But I'll tell you with that there, though, you know what? Again, here's the difference when you're talking about Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. That matters with Hurts. For Joe Burrow, you got a quarterback that knows how to spread the football around. I'm not saying that he doesn't have a lack of talent or is going to be a lesser talented player, but remember something. That football team is not built around wide receivers like that football team in Philly is. That football team is built around the quarterback, and the quarterback is still going to spread the ball around. John, I heard John make a comment about the Rams this past Monday night. There's no question that they've struggled, especially interior-wise with T-stunts, and I brought it up earlier, and I just posted it on my Twitter page. The Bengals have struggled when it comes to stunts in the middle, pressure in the middle. But, hey, man, ask the Vikings what they did on that Monday night thing and the 26th ranked offensive line with the Rams. They didn't give up a sack. Why is that significant? Yeah. Well, you get the ball out of your hand, right, John? Because you got a talented quarterback that knows he has to get 3 and out, and he has to be under 2.5 seconds. Don't go to sleep on that, man. I mean, T. Higgins is out. That's a loss. There's no question. It's like Mike Evans and Godwin out for Baker Mayfield down in Tampa. That's a big deal. I get it. But don't go to sleep on the fact that team's built around that quarterback, not vice versa in Philly. You lose A.J., the whole offense falls to pieces. In Cincinnati, that offense will not fall to pieces.
John, before you check in on this comment, let me give you a couple stats because here at Sills, I hear you, but the stats say otherwise. The Bengals without T. Higgins this year, they're 0-2 with 17.5 points a game. With Higgins, they average 28.6 points per game, 11 points more with T on the floor. I'm not saying that's at all. John, wait, let me get to John Sills because I want John to give a check in here on this T. Higgins stuff. John, how big of a deal is this T. Higgins missing the game?
No, I think it's a big deal because, the Bengals don't have a lot of depth at the position, but I do agree with a little bit of the sentiment with Sills about Joe Burrow being able maybe to overcome it a little bit better. And on a particular, the problem here is, and you bring up the Rams comparison, which I think is a good one because that's a terrible offensive line. You expect this, and it's a short week, though. It was the Thursday night game, so nobody had time to prepare. Sean McVay does a good job. All right, we're getting the ball out of his hands quickly. All of a sudden, you do some good things that way. This happened to the Bengals on Friday. T. Higgins was fine, and he got hurt. He pulled his quad running routes on air at practice Friday. So they were planning to have T. Higgins all week, and bang, all of a sudden they wake up and he's probably not going to play on Saturday. So that's a little bit that the same thing happened to the Eagles with A.J. Brown because he got hurt in practice. If you remember, late that week, and he couldn't make the adjustments. Not that the Eagles can ever make the adjustments without A.J. Brown, but I think the lateness of the injury affects it as well. so you don't have time. Zach Taylor doesn't have time. But Zach Taylor's, to go back to Sills' point, where's he come from? Sean McVay. He's probably got the same type of mentality. All right, I got to go about it a different way. Maybe they could do it. So I see both sides of the fence. It's a big loss for the Bengals. I'm not trying to downplay it. They can't replace T. Higgins, one of the best wide receiver twos in the NFL. But Joe Burrow, man, that's why I'm looking forward to this game. I want to see how the Eagles deal with Joe Burrow, because this is a legit elite quarterback. And if he's got his A stuff, we were talking World Series before we came on. If he's got his A stuff, you're going to have a tough day. Doesn't matter who's out there.
Yeah, it's Baker Mayfield with a lot more talent, and he shredded this defense. So hopefully this defense can make a push. I guess the guy who will step up in place of T. Higgins, John, is that Andre Iosivas. I don't know if I'm saying his name. Iosivas.
Yeah,
Iosivas. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how good of
he's
a player.
He's a Princeton kid, so he's very smart. He's making some plays. You know, he's okay. He's a good third receiver, but you bump him up to number 2. Yeah, not so much. So it's a big break for the Eagles, and they gotta take advantage of it. You know, Jamar Chase, though, there's another guy. And we talked about some bullshit stat. You want a bullshit stat? I can't explain this, but it's there. Jamar Chase has, and I give my buddy Dave Gerhardt, who does stats for Ricky Ricardo and the Eagles, 50-plus receiving yards in each of his 17 career games against the NFC, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the consistency. He leads the NFL in receiving yards. And you talk about, we go back to Joe Burrow. For some freaking reason, Joe Burrow is 10-1 with 24 passing touchdowns, 28 touchdowns, 108.2 passer rating, and 11 starts versus NFC teams. 10-1. I don't know. Shows up an NFC team, and Joe just he's lights out.
How about this one too, John? The number 1 combo in the National Football League between receiver and quarterback with a 141 rating is Chase and Burrow.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, now again, a lot of that heat, because you have another guy on the Y over there on the other side, takes a lot of that pressure off when you have 2 legitimate, like 1 and then 1A type guys. So there's no question. I think the problem that happened with the Bengals this year, there's twofold. They haven't been able to really replace a lot of the talented people and the really good average players over the last 3 years defensively. Also, A-plus player in Jesse Bates in the secondary. Yeah. And on top of that, I think they really underestimated the value of a guy like a Joe Mixon back there that was able to help out more play action. And when you look at their numbers, they're 28th running the ball right now, and that has absolutely hurt them. That just shows you, though, Zander, you're 28th or 26th down in there in running the football, and yet Burrow's got 15 or 14 touchdowns with 2 picks. On how great this guy is, this guy's moving the sticks. And get this, they're 3-4. They're actually favored in this game versus a 4-2 Eagle team coming into this game. That's what the people with the bags of money in Atlantic City and also in Vegas think of this guy. This guy is one of the top 3 players when it comes. I heard John the other day also talking about when he saw Kirk Cousins, or not Kirk Cousins, but Matthew Stafford's head on a swivel. Dude, that's another thing you're going to get here with these young defensive backs that the Eagles have. Dude, there's like 5 guys on the planet that can look back. You know what that does to a defender? It freezes you.
Oh,
you have no idea what to do there, because most of the inexperienced quarterbacks, and I'll tell you, Hurts is a candidate for this. They give you the kind of the zone of what they're looking at here, and you kind of move the defense and slide the defensive backers that way. When you got a guy like Burrow, you got to hold your ground, man. You better hold your water, or if not, that guy's going to come back to a backside on you. And I don't care what that kid's name is from Princeton. He'll hit his head on the goalpost.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Hey, by the way, that's a good point by Sills, because there's so few guys who can do it. You saw it again Thursday night against Stafford. A veteran defense. Like Stephon Gilmore's out there. Harrison Smith is out there. This has been one of the best defenses in the NFL early in the season. And Matthew Stafford, and even those guys who played forever, Matthew Stafford shows up and he's going from side to side, and they're just not used to it.
No.
So you can imagine a young defensive group, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, guys like that, they're not used to seeing that. So put that in your back pocket for November 24th, I believe, is when the Eagles play the Rams out there. But in general, there are very few quarterbacks who can do that. And it's almost a surprise to the defensive backs who are, they're playing the eyes and they're saying, all right, he's going here. And all of a sudden he's back over here. Very few quarterbacks can do it. And Dan's right. Joe Burrow's one who can do it.
Yep, no doubt about it. Since we're started on the defense, let's stick right there. John, I'm going to come right back to you with this. With T. Higgins officially out today, do you think that changes how Vic Fangio might approach this game defensively?
Oh, it should.
Right. I mean, now you take away Jamar Chase. I mean, right? What do you expect to see from Vic now with T. Higgins out?
I would not let Jamar Chase go anywhere without bracket coverage. That's how I would approach this game. I'm going to force Andre Yosevas to beat me. I'm going to force, it's probably going to be more the tight ends, Mike Gesicki, to beat me. I'm going to force those guys to beat me, not Jamar Chase. Now, I expect, look, Jamar Chase is so good. You're going to have a breakdown. He's going to make a big play down the field. So as long as you don't have one of those 9 receptions for 150-yard games he's going to get his. He's a scorer, so to speak, if you want to make that NBA analogy. He's going to get 25, but make him work for that 25. Sort of what you want to do with Jamar Chase. And I'm not letting him beat me. I'm just going to bracket him everywhere he goes and say somebody else has got to do it.
So how do you see it from defensive standpoint today for the Eagles?
For me, John last week and actually the last 2 weeks has been dead on and point on when, hey, Vic Fangio, the difference that defense has had is because he's brought pressure. Well, Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson, those are 2 stiffs. You bring pressure against this guy here, this guy's going to eat you alive by bringing pressure. That's why, in my opinion, the pressure is really on Carter and Davis and the edge rushers to get home in this ball game. Because, again, I brought up the fact that interior offensive line, look, Orlando Brown has had a really good year this year. However, he's been nicked up, and interior-wise, they have really struggled with T-stunts and pressure from the middle. What is Vic going to do? He's going to have to pick his poison here, because one thing that guy does, like Tom Brady used to do, there's a lot of Tom Brady mannerisms in the style and approach of the game that Burrow has, that Brady had, is that if you bring pressure or you're going to come from a particular place, he identifies landmarks and pre-snap pressure. This is the one thing that Hurts has been working on for the last year here, and that's why they brought Kellen Moore in, was to improve that. Burrow has that innate ability to be able to see where that pressure's coming from pre-snap. Again, is Vic going to move those younger guys around and do post-snap to try to confuse and try to disguise some of the defenses there for Joe Burrow? Dude, this guy is a savant guy in that pocket. He knows where to go with the ball pre and post, and I'm talking snap. So this is really going to come down to that front 4. It's going to come down to Smith, Huff, and the 2 defensive tackles and the rotations that they have inside there to really put pressure on this Bengal team, because, again, it's the best offense, including the Packers, that they have seen. Outside of a little bit of a lack when it comes to the running game, that's the best air attack that they'll see probably until they see Los Angeles when they take on the Rams with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford. This is going to be a great test for them back there and that young secondary on Jamar Chase. I'm with John. Keep him in the box. Keep him underneath. Don't give up the plus 25. The guy goes for 7 catches for 120 yards and everybody else is a stiff. I don't care, because one thing that they've done a nice job of this year on that defense for the first 6 games, they've kept them off the scoreboard.
No doubt about it. Big super chat here as Sills just finishes up. Appreciate it, Edgar, for the $50 super chat. He says, "Love the truth" by Sills. Look at that, Sills. A nice.
See that, John? Don't let John tell you.
It's all you get from me is truth, man.
Let
all
me
you
let me
get.
get, I think these two
I love
teams are
John.
similar, guys, and here's what I mean by this. I think both today are trying to prove that they are contenders and not pretenders. And here's what I mean. The Cincinnati Bengals are 3-4. Their last 2 wins are the Browns and the Giants. The Philadelphia Eagles' last 2 wins are the Browns and the Giants. And everybody in the city of brotherly love is waiting to see what this team is made of. And we haven't put too much stock in those victories because of the 2 opponents. Both are looking to kind of prove today that they can beat a viable football team. The Bengals' other win came against Carolina, by the way, with losses to the Chiefs.
Big
the
win.
Commanders,
Big win, Carolina.
yeah, and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, that was a close game that went to overtime. But, both of these teams are kind of in that spot today. It's kind of one of those games where they're both trying to prove what they're made of. And I think the Bengals might be bigger pretenders than we think. Am I overreacting, John McMullen?
No, I mean, I don't look at the Bengals. I'm a little disappointed and say, yeah, I mean, they have not played well. I would say early it's ironic because, that the worst loss is week 1. I mean, they lost to the New England Patriots. I don't even know how that's possible. But if you look at their offensive performances, like they play Kansas City, they lose 26-25. They play Washington, and we didn't know Jaden Daniels at the time, but now we know Jaden Daniels. 38-33, they lose. And then they play Baltimore, maybe the most talented team in football, not the best, but maybe the most talented. 41-38 Ravens. Look at those offensive numbers, and they're coming up just short. And then some of their wins against crappy competition, even some of their losses. I say New England, they lose 16-10 to New England. How is that possible? You go in against the crappy Giants and you win the game, but it's 17 points, 17-7. That's not impressive. And then you beat the Browns 21-14, which is almost like the Eagles who beat them 2016. So, yeah, they got plenty to prove. But again, if the A game is there, they can score with anybody. And, perhaps T. Higgins takes that off the table. We'll see. But can the Eagles win a 41-38 game? Can the Eagles win a 38-33 game? Not like they're playing right now. Now, if you go back to week 1, that's what we say. This is a week-to-week league. They did it against Green Bay, but they haven't looked the same. They haven't looked explosive. They've looked choppy. We keep using that word, you and I, Zander. You've seen the offense. Does this offense inspire you to say if Cincinnati's going to score 30 plus, can they outscore them? I don't know. Doesn't look like it right now.
I don't think so. Big Sills, your reaction on what those stats I said about the Bengals, contenders, pretenders. Where are you on this Cincinnati team?
Oh, to go to one game. I mean, Joe Burrow's 30 of 39 for 392 yards and 5 touchdowns against Baltimore, and they lose in overtime to them. I mean, yes, they've been also rocky, and it's been rocky because of their defense. It's not been rocky really because of the offense. The defense has put them numerous times this year, and many of those crappy games that you guys are pointing out has put them in really bad situational football, has been putting back in bad situation. And on top of the thing that I brought up with Joe Mixon not being able to be in that backfield any longer and give them any kind of offensive running, that has really hampered that team. And that's why they've been up and down. The one thing, though, is that offense has really not been up and down when it comes to putting up the numbers, as John said, but it has been up and down when it comes to putting up the scores. You go back to that Baltimore game, the significant thing, and what you guys have pointed out now, is that, 30 of 39, Burrow goes against that Baltimore team for 5 touchdowns. I mean, Jamar Chase had 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. But on the flip side of that, with 10 catches, on the flip side of that, T. Higgins had 9 catches for 83 and also 2 touchdowns. So, again, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to compensate for the loss of T. Higgins. Now, I actually like Zach Taylor. I'll say this to you. What was Cincinnati prior to Zach Taylor showing up? And I get it. Joe Burrow, too. I get all that. But sometimes you can have Shaq O'Neal and you can have Del Harris as your coach, and you ain't going anywhere with him. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to have that right combination to be able to move the chains and the sticks when you're having a guy like a Joe Burrow. And I think Zach Taylor's actually done a nice job, John. I mean, he could be one of the more underrated play callers and also route designers, because here's a coach that no one knows anything about. He's named after a president, I think. And here's a guy here that's been to 2 AFC championship games. I mean, and has a winning record versus Patrick Mahomes, where very few people have a winning record, including Lamar Jackson. So, I mean, they've been spotty. And I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that Duke Tobin's not, the general manager, has not been able to replace a lot of that talent on that defensive side of the ball. But let's not forget, the owner's Mike Brown, which means that's a zipper on his wallet.
No doubt.
Yeah. Poor Duke Tobin. We should talk about Duke Tobin.
I think he's a really good talent evaluator.
Oh my God, he's tremendous.
Yeah.
He's tremendous.
Yeah.
He's got like a 5-man staff. The Eagles go 30 deep, and Duke Tobin is pulling what out of his what. I mean, when you talk about that defense, first of all, Trey Hendrickson is great. DJ Hill is great. Sam Hubbard not having a great season, but he's a good player. Logan Wilson, that's a guy I wanted the Eagles to draft back when they drafted him. Good player. They're solid in the front seven. Their secondary is terrible. That's where it is. So, for everybody that wants, and we're in Philadelphia, so, everybody wants it to be 1975 forever. Run the football, run the football, run the football. If you can't pass against this secondary, maybe you should turn it into a run-first team.
We're about to go there. Let's talk offense, Big Sills, I'll come to you first. What do you want to see from the Philadelphia Eagles offense today, and how to approach this game?
Wait a minute now. What do I want to see, or what do I think they'll do?
Let me hear both, and let me start with what you want to see, because I think that might create some fireworks on the show.
I want 40 carries, and I want 15 touches on the passing attempts by Jalen Hurts, and I want it to resemble, because what's the Achilles heel right now? Like John said, there's 2 points here. They can't stop the run, and they're struggling in the secondary when it comes to the passing game. I mean, and right now, dude, Greg Cosell's dead on with him. Jalen Hurts is not playing good football. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I thought the Browns game against a good defense, I thought he was good in that game because it looked a little bit more like 2022. But the guy who's forcing the hand for them to be able to run the football is Saquon Barkley. Barkley's having the second best year of any running back next to Derrick Henry, and he's right up there near 1,800 yards. Now he's on pace for 318 carries, which would be the most in his career. Okay, I'm going to run that guy as much as I possibly can. And if you start throwing and getting into a shootout, and you think you're going to be a guy who's going to get out there and you're going to get into a duel with Joe Burrow, you're going to lose this game big time. Go out there, smash mouth football. That's what I do. What do I think they're going to do? 35 attempts passing. They'll probably lose and get away from the run game in the second half. Cincinnati will win that ball game. That's what I think how this thing is going to start playing out, because to me, you run the ball down their throat and it loosens up that secondary that John says is open, and you'll see those guys running wide open. Barkley is the key to this, and he will always be the key to this, to open up that second half, but it won't happen like that. They'll try to get into a shootout with this guy. And John, I'll say this. If Cincinnati gets a lead on them and they get out 10-0, you will see all those passes, and they'll get beat pretty good in this football game.
They can't afford to have a nothing burger in the first quarter. I'll say that. John, how come to you on the offense now? What do you expect to see from the offense today? And then what would you do for your approach to this game?
Yeah, I mean, the history is after there's a game like there was in New York, like I expect DeMonte Smith to get the football early in this game.
Predetermined, John, predetermined.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They did it. There was a game a couple years ago in Detroit where DeMonte Smith didn't have any catches.
Yeah, the 0 game. That's right.
And the next week he went off for, 100, and they got him the football.
It was Washington.
Well over 100, and they got him the football the first 2 plays of the game. They tend to do that. They tend to self-correct. to Sills' point, I say, yeah, there's a lot of hubris with the Eagles in the fact that they don't play that way. They don't ever since, and I told this to Zander last week, ever since they went on their run, which, encompassed the end of 2021, 2022, and the 10-1 start in 2023, which is the greatest run in Eagles history. They don't think they have to kowtow to anyone. They don't think that they have to shorten games. They don't think that they have to manage games in that fashion. That's not the way they think. Some of that is good. Well, again, we were talking pre-show about something else. Confidence is a big thing with players. And they have immense confidence. And they're like, their mentality is, I don't give a shit who it is. We're going to win. Now, they haven't been in that position. I get why people might snicker at that, but I'm telling you, that's their belief. So when people start talking about managing the game, oh, you got to shorten the clock to deal with Joe Burrow, they don't think that way. They don't think that way. They aren't going to think that way. Maybe someday, if they have a really bad season, they get back to thinking that way. Right now, they don't think that way. So they're looking at that secondary and saying, this is the chance to get Jalen Hurts going. AJ's always going. Get Devontae back in the game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, does that mean they're not going to run the football? No, they know the kind of year Saquon Barkley is having. But as Zander pointed out, the whole thing, the whole philosophy, and people are probably sick of me saying this, is to increase the margin of error. And if you play that way, you decrease your margin for error. If you play that way, you got to play from the lead. You can't get down 10-0. If you have an explosive offense, the best ones, modern NFL offense, I'm talking about the best ones, the really, really good ones, emphasize the innovative, whatever you want to call it, sophisticated passing attacks. You need to do both, but the best ones are the ones that can move the ball quickly through the air. And if anyone disagrees with that, I think you're living in a different generation. And if you're younger than me, you should be ashamed of yourself. You got to open your mind. The best ones in this league emphasize explosive passing attacks, period. End of sentence. That doesn't mean you don't need to run the ball, but if you become a run-first team, and we've seen this, Derrick Henry and I got to cover Adrian Peterson in Minnesota. Derrick Henry in Tennessee. Adrian Peterson won an MVP. It was amazing to watch that season. Amazing. They would convert 3rd and 7s running the football. They didn't win. They didn't snip the Super Bowl. Derrick Henry, 2,000 yards. You've seen him even at this stage. Phenomenal. They didn't win the Super Bowl. So you expect really difficult to play that way.
I hear you. Big passing attack then, are you expecting today, Joe?
I'm expecting Devontae early, and I'm expecting them. Well, Jalen Hurts is a big part of this.
That's what I mean. Sure, you told me about how important it is to win in the air. Okay, I get it. You got to have a quarterback that's playing really good football to do that.
They need to get that guy to where they need him at. And the only way to do it is to get him some confidence and have him do it. I don't know any other way to do it.
I'll tell you what, John, Lou Anarumo, he's a really, really good defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he is.
The one thing that they have on that coaching staff, they have some really quality coaches on that staff, and that DC is really good. And if they go into this game, and I agree with John, I think they're going to bait them to throw the ball. Because to me, here's the guy that runs Cincinnati off the field is Barkley. If you get into seriously throwing the ball 37, 38 times, that Hurts is not beating Cincinnati. He's not beating them. Okay? He has not played well. He's played average since the start of the 23 season. Okay? He's 15-9. He's been up and down. The turnovers have settled down a little bit, but why? John said it on Monday because they limited his touches with 15 against the Giants. Now, did that game dictate it because Barkley took over? Absolutely, and I'm okay with ebb and flow. That's an ebb and flow game.
That's a flow game. That's what Devontae called it. It's a flow game. You go
it's
with
an ebb and flow game like that. So again, sometimes you look up, John, and you look up and there's another guy who had more reps than you in a game, and you're like, how the hell did that guy have more reps than me? Because sometimes they were just in nickel package and you weren't on base. And you're going like, that guy got more reps than me? Holy crap, man. It just happens that way. When Nick says that at the press conference, he's dead on with that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well,
plus,
if you talk about the Giants game, I mean, look, they were so limited offensively. That game started, and I've said this over and over, punt, 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 punt. 4 consecutive punts. The Eagles had 3 consecutive punts before they scored, before the big run by Saquon that set up the score. 7 consecutive punts in that game. You could afford to be patient because this team's not doing anything. The New York Giants. So if you do that, if you come out punt, punt, punt today, you're probably going to be down 10-0, 14-0. Then the entire flow of the game changes. And I say this all the time for the run the ball crowd. If they're down 14-0 and they stay disciplined and they keep running the ball, you're going to be pissed off as hell.
Be the Bucks game. It looked like the Bucks game. You're going to be if you get into what you just said, John, and the Eagles play that and they get down 14, it'll look like the Bucks game and it'll get run off the football field because what they'll start doing.
Well, maybe, but you're not going to win the game running.
No, because they're going to want to try to get back into the football game by throwing the football. No question about it, man. No doubt.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why the best offenses are the, ones that can move the football through the air almost effortlessly at times. But that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean you don't want to run the football as well. The goal is to be as balanced as possible. The goal is to be winning in the fourth quarter so you can run to close the game. That's the goal. But the Eagles' passing offense has to get better. And why not take advantage of one of the worst secondaries you're going to see?
Makes a lot of sense, John. Now, I'll tell you what, if they're going to do it that way, they better put points on the board in the first quarter. You cannot have a 7th game this season that you do not score.
If they have a poor passing game today, we're going to be on the post-game show, and I'm going to be ripping the quarterback. I can tell you that.
I'll tell you this, John. You brought an absolutely awesome point up this week. And then Greg Cosell kind of put the dot on it here. Dude, it is Kellen Moore's offense, but it's Hurts. But it's Jalen's inability to do the simplest throws, like Greg said, and execute the simple throws and not seeing the field. That's why it looks the same. John, I'm going back and forth. Is Kellen calling the plays? Not. Then I start realizing it, listening to both of you and combining it. That's exactly what you have. And to me, if I'm playing defense against the Eagles, once again, it's predictability again. Here they are. Big targets to your Y and Z. The 3-hole is nowhere. I don't know why they don't go and play and resemble what they do in Baltimore. Baltimore is the number 1 team in the NFL with only 2 wideouts, a fullback, and the guy's throwing for 350 yards a game. Why? He's not complicated the offense at all. John, for 3 years, they've got nothing out of that 3-hole. Why even have him on the field out there when a quarterback doesn't see him, let alone the tight end? You need to simplify that thing and help him out a little more by running the ball and also throwing the ball. Look at what they're doing and how they're coaching him, Lamar Jackson, up in Baltimore with Todd Monken. They're doing such a great job at playing to that player's skill set. You got an offense, and John said it, Zander. He goes like this. This is Kellen Moore's offense, but hey, guess what? there's a certain way he's going to drive the offense for me. I can't give him crap that he can't do. So I'm going to call this play. I'm going to call that play. I'm going to do this. Kellen's calling to the best of his ability right now, but the quarterback, to John's point, he's got to play better. He's got to see the field better, and he's just got to execute better.
No doubt about it. Guys, we're talking about this passing game and how important it is today. Well, let's talk about the injuries. Becton is out. Dallas Goedert is out, and Jordan Mailata is out. John McMullen, how much of an impact will that have on the prolific offense that we need, prolific passing offense we need to have today? How hard is it going to be to overcome those losses?
Well, I think the key one is Brett Johnson against Trey Hendrickson today. That's for whatever reason, whether it's, playing in Cincinnati or what have you, there's a guy who doesn't get the credit he deserves.
7 sacks, I think, John.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, he's been consistent for 4 or 5 years now. He's one of the best pass rushers in football. He is a dominant pass rusher. And if the Eagles have this tremendous luxury when Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson are available, one of the only teams in the NFL that game plan go into a game and they say, we don't have to worry about our tackles. Just leave them out there. Don't even worry about it. Don't think about shipping. Don't think about max protection. Don't think about doing these extra things to help. Eagles can't just default to that and say, all right, next man up. Jordan Mailata versus Trey Hendrickson. Now it's Brett Johnson versus Trey. Can't say it's the same. And you do have to use Jack Stoll more. Maybe Ben Sumrin gets some more snaps. Dan was talking about a fullback. Ben's very athletic. He's shown an ability to play that position. Maybe they get him more involved, 5 to 10 snaps, whatever, to help with pass protection. You got to go about it a little bit of a different way. I talked about that hubris the Eagles have. It's real. And they're like, we'll just persevere. The Eagles have tremendous talent, starting talent on offense. The backups haven't been very good, to be honest.
good stuff. Big Smooth. Big shout out to one of our chatters, guys, who's at the game in Cincinnati today. Big Smooth, enjoy the game, brother. Appreciate you checking in on the pregame show.
400, did he say? Did he say what Jalen's going for 400?
Going for 400 plus today.
Yeah, I'm going the under there, buddy. I hope. Yeah. I'm going.
Hey, John. One point on Fred Johnson, though. I will give him
former Bengal, by the way, Fred Johnson.
I will give him credit on this, and Mailata pointed it out last week on WIP, and I'll give him credit for this. You're going against the premier pass rushers each week now because you're playing that left tackle position. Last week it was Brian Burns. Now you're going to be taking on Trey Hendrickson. That's a lot tough of a position to be in when you're taking it. And I thought he settled in a little bit in the second half. Remember, John,
he threw it 14 times, Dan. I'm not. They
did run for 270 yards.
I'm not talking about. Well, they had a tremendous running game, and the Eagles have done that, and Tyler Steen as well. But the Eagles have done this since 2021. No team in football has had more 200-yard rushing games. And that's before Saquon Barkley. So now they've gotten even better. But no, I'm not concerned about run. I'm concerned about pass protection.
Well, then, John, wait, let me say this then. Doesn't that dictate then, if you're concerned about pass protection, especially with Trey, doesn't that going to determine the play calling that's going to be in this game then? Because if you drop him back 37 times and you got Trey Hendrickson out
but
there.
I think you have to be realistic. So I assume what you're saying is copy what you did last week against the New York Giants. It ain't going to work.
Okay, well, then guess what? If you line up 37 times, that guy's going to get 3 sacks on that quarterback because of Fred Johnson.
Now you got to help. So
then
what I'm getting is, all right, play like the way you did against the New York Giants and assume you're going to get 269 yards rushing and only have to throw the football 14 times. Maybe it works. I don't like those odds.
I don't either.
You only throw it. If I come into this game, which again, I always yell at people for saying, what's the run pass ratio going to be? What do I always say? Tell me what the score is in the fourth quarter. I'll tell you what the run pass ratio is. The Eagles ran 15 plays in the fourth quarter last week, 14 runs. Because the game was over.
John, didn't they throw the ball only 4 times in the second half?
Yeah, 4 times. The game was over at halftime.
I thought I was watching a 1920 Eagles and Washington game.
Yeah. I don't know if people noticed, but they swapped out their helmets for leather helmets. Why not? Let's go back to the 1920s.
Oh gosh, somewhere in the middle, I think might be the truth of it all. Let's get to the chat check. Appreciate everybody in here today. We got a couple super chats. I'll get Johnny Mac and Sills' response to those. Let's roll through them quickly. Edgar, big thanks to you, man, for the $50 super chat. Love the truth by Sills. Edgar said, good stuff there. Kimberly checks in. Stafford is one of the best in the league still. Our secondary can't handle Burrow and Chase. I believe one day they can. That day might not be today. Tough matchup for those guys. John, will they be able to handle them today?
Those two? No, probably not.
I
put the number at 80% completion percentage, 80%. Over under.
Oh my God. This is going to look like a Derek Carr game a couple years ago where Joe Burrow throws for 85% completion percentage.
Could be one of those games. That's how the Eagles play.
31 of 34 in that game.
Holy cow, man. Wow. I mean, look, I said this before. I think that Eagle defense probably next year or the year after is probably going to be quite good with all the young players that they have on the team. But to sit there on October 27th with many of these guys being young and just getting reps. I mean, I brought the point up about even Nakobe. Nakobe had like 230 snaps NFL-wise entering into this year, and he's still a young football player. So, again, probably 2 years from now, that defense is going to look good. Right now, it's going to be spotty. And when you take on a quarterback like this, dude, you better bring a lunch pail and better bring a hard hat because it's going to go to work game. It's one of those
we're in game 7. You're talking about Nakobe. Zach Ballin has already surpassed his career highs for defensive reps in week
7 games.
Yeah,
that's
for
crazy.
week 6. So
that's crazy. Games right there to bye week.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. So big.
How many years has he been in the league, John? 5?
Yeah. So, and he looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, he didn't know he surpassed him, and he was like, "Are you worried about me?" No, I'm not. I'm like, isn't that a big uptick in not being used to playing? And Dan, you play defense now. He's not a rotational player at linebacker, so he plays 60, 70 snaps a game.
That's insane.
Yeah. So
that's insane. Yeah.
Let's keep rolling. Jason A-Team checks in. What up, JAKIB family? What's up, Jason? Thank you, brother. Going to be a good game and good test for our defense. I got Eagles 27-24. Thank you, Big Z, Big Sills, and J-Mac. Hurts has a game. Jason, great super chat, man. Thank you. Abe checks in. Vic versus the Bengals in 2021. Burrow was 15-22, 157 yards. Chase 1 for 3. Higgins 2 for 23. Boyd 5 for 96. Uzama 3 for 18. Mixon rushed at 17.
What was Vic's personnel then? I mean, who
21. That was when he was in Denver, I believe, the head coach.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they had Chubb,
that's the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Okay, so they had Chubb and they had Surtain back there, right? Is that correct? They had Von Miller.
Did they still have Von? I'd have to look it up, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the assumption that Vic is just there with a joystick. And because he stopped Joe Burrow in Denver in 2021, that means anything. That's like saying the Eagles have never won in Cincinnati. That's the same thing. I mean, come on, guys.
Abe, you just got ripped by Johnny Mac. Welcome to the club, brother.
I mean, Vic was asked about that. He said, yeah, we had a good day. All right. Yeah. It was a good offense. They made a Super Bowl. Believe me, Vic Fangio is worried about Joe Burrow this week.
Yeah, no, everybody should be. Dor Garner checks in. Not a coincidence that the Eagles scored a lot of points when they didn't let Jalen throw it. AJ will bitch going 2 games without touches. Well, he got his touches last week. John is shaking your head. Wait, I'm going to come to Sills first. Sills, your response.
I blame you, Zander. I blame
you. No, listen, my opinion on AJ is super talented guy. a modern day wide receiver dude that loves his numbers, loves the importance on the offense. It's okay. You tolerate that stuff because you know why? He's one of the most productive players and one of the top 3 wide receivers or 4 in the game. I mean, you know what that is. What do you think he's any different than DK Metcalf or Tyreek Hill or Stephon Diggs or any Justin Jefferson? These guys want their numbers. You know why? They're not paid on wins. They're paid on numbers. Nobody in the NFL's paid on wins. You're paid on numbers on what you can do for your football team. There's a reason Joe Burrow is making $55 million. There's a reason that Trevor Lawrence is making $55 million. Not because Trevor Lawrence is winning. They're getting paid because of numbers. Not that guy's putting a lot of numbers up, but he wants his numbers too. And so when he makes a bitch about it, hey, we like to play too. I mean, hey, you just got to go with it there.
It's
Hey,
a diva comment.
wait a minute. Hey, I want to be in the
First of all, he wasn't bitching. Second of all, some of those people you named, like Stephon Diggs, I mean, come on, those are divas. AJ played. People forget AJ played in Tennessee, played in a run-first Derrick Henry offense. And by the way, that hurt Tennessee because they didn't know how good he was.
No, they didn't. John, John, I think the most he ever had in a year there was 68 catches. I mean,
played in that type of offense for years. And again, it hurt the Titans because they didn't know how good. They didn't want to pay him because they didn't know how good he was. And again, he was joking. And I blame Zander, but I'll blame you too, Dan, if you took that baton.
I'll take the blame.
He was joking, but if people don't know he's joking and they think
here's
it's
my
real,
tissue. All right, it's okay. Don't worry, honey. We'll get you the ball this week. I promise.
Yeah, that's Devontae. AJ got the ball. He was the only one who got the ball.
Devontae doesn't say jack, John.
You just beat a division opponent by 25 points. Shut up. You have 3K
Hey,
yards.
now wait a minute. They did ask him the question, though.
No, I get
it. It wasn't like he offered that up. They did ask him the question.
Too.
Yeah,
Des
the last question.
Bengals punted 10
question.
times versus the Giants.
Yeah.
Did they punt 10 times versus the New York Giants?
Who? The Eagles?
The Bengals?
Maybe. Yeah, they played poorly. I don't know.
I think they only had 17 points in that game.
Yeah, they played poorly offensively against the Giants. But
again,
again, there's no fucking transitive property in the NFL. All right. They also scored 38 points against the Baltimore Ravens.
5 TDs too from the quarterback.
Oh, we did this against the Giants and they did this against the Giants.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
It's weak. Hey, John, it's weak to people don't get it's week to week matchups that certain personnel matchups favor a respected dude. I can't tell you how many times you walk into a game, you go, oh, we're going to roll this team. But then you go, wow, they had the right components to slow our particular offense down and vice versa. And you're like this, it doesn't matter. That's why each week is its own chapter in the book of 2020.
Yeah, go back to Thursday night. Go back to Thursday night again. Nobody, the Rams they destroyed them. They destroyed them at will. Anybody see that coming?
No, absolutely not. Brian Flores had been doing a pretty good job. The last 2 weeks, they've kind of wobbled, but no way. Not with the ease that they did it with.
They got three pressures and 36 pass drops.
John, I don't even know who the third wide receiver was that was wide open in the secondary that they got open, that Sean McVay schemed open. That's it. To your point, though, every week, that's why when people go, are you flip-flopping on your take? No, because every week is a different storyline when it comes to this league. 2 weeks from now, we'll say, is Baltimore still the best team in the NFL? I don't know that. I have no idea if they're the best team in the NFL in 2 weeks. I just know after this weekend, we'll have a pretty good indication because we're almost at the halfway point of the season where we'll know what teams' identities are.
Well, I think Detroit's the best team in the NFL.
I do too, John.
But maybe somebody figures out how to take advantage of no Aiden Hutchinson. All of a sudden,
correct.
You see some of the weaknesses in the armor, and things change very, very quickly. because Cincinnati played poorly against the New York Giants and the Eagles played really well against the New York Giants has nothing to do with what's going to go on today in Cincinnati.
All right, we're running out of time here. We got to get to a commercial break. We got predictions. We got all sorts of stuff to get to. I'm going to challenge us all to try and do these next supers quick. But
He's a diva.
Well, so you went there. Door Gunner has a pallet of gasoline that he just wants to dump on the show today. Can't run the Ravens offense, paying 2 number 1 wide receivers. Howie won't allow it, and AJ will go nuclear. Door Gunner just pouring gas on the fire.
Why would you want to run the Ravens offense if you don't have freaking Lamar Jackson? Because that would be really, really dumb. And guess what? The Eagles don't have Lamar Jackson. Sorry, Jalen Hurts fans.
No, they don't. Josh Herman checking in. He said, Josh Herman, appreciate you, Josh. Do you think Jordan Davis is having problems because of a skill issue or conditioning issue? Big Sills, the truth teller. Big Sills, I'll come to you first on that. Skill or conditioning for Jordan?
I think his productivity is just now. Here's the deal with him, though. Okay. If you're saying to me that he's not going to be productive, okay, understood, because you're drafting him for being a run stopper. Well, he hasn't been. Last 2 weeks, they've done a decent job at stopping it. But since 2023 and the start of it, the Eagles have been giving up around 128 yards, 130 yards a game. I mean, okay, if he's not going to be productive and get you sacks and tackles, all right, I get it. Okay. Well, then he's Vince Wilfork. Well, Vince Wilfork and the Patriot defense were in the top 5 every year in stopping the run. That defense they're 16th right now or 15th right now in stopping the run. Okay. I don't see it yet. I think he's so up and down that if you're not going to give me stats, you got to at least be effective when it comes to stopping the run.
John,
and Carter's getting the majority of the double teams.
Well, that's what you want him to be. I always use Haloti Ngata, but you can use Vince Wilfork. You can use Pat Williams, somebody like that. But, you also need linebackers to take advantage of it.
Yes.
And the Eagles don't bow. It's a mess. I said it. Zander can back me up on this. Right. I said it from day one. This is an esoteric pick. People aren't going to get it. They're going to worry about sacks and pass rush. It's not what he's here to do. So to me, it's different. It's 2 different questions. Bottom line, he's been a disappointment in his defined role inside the building. I agree with that.
That's where I was going,
But number 2, for the people outside the building who don't get his role, he was never going to be a success. So it's a question of, can you take a 2-down player at 13th overall in the draft? That's a legitimate criticism. You shouldn't do that.
No way.
So I agree with that part of it. Is he a good 2-down player? Yes. Is he a great 2-down player? No. And they wanted him to be a great 2-down player.
One more super chat before we get to our break. Twiz the Jigga says, Saquon over CMC, another jersey giveaway incoming. I'm not going to make
I'd rather have Saquon right now, but if anybody saw Christian McCaffrey at his height and they'd rather have Saquon Barkley than Christian McCaffrey.
John, you're not gonna debate that.
Over under 125 yards for Saquon today, yards from scrimmage for a jersey giveaway to the great people of JAKIB. John, over or under?
Well, Saquon's a home run hitter. Unlike Aaron Judge, he's been hitting home runs.
Wow, shot at the Yankees.
So all he's got to do is have the 155-yard run. He's probably going to go over, but I'm going to go under because I think it's a passing game.
Sills, over or under for Saquon for the jersey giveaway to the JAKIB members this week?
Under 60 yards. How about that one? No. You know
By
why?
the way, I didn't understand what you're saying, Big Sills. Were you saying that Saquon's better than Christian McCaffrey?
Absolutely not. Never had.
Thank God. Thank God.
Guy had 100 catches and 1,000 yards in a 1,500-yard year one year.
I misunderstood.
Big Carolina.
Yeah.
Zander, they're going to throw the ball 35 times in this game because they're going to get behind. Barkley's going to have 12 carries for 58 yards.
Oh, my Lord. Big Sills dropping a hammer. I'm predicting the over. And the great people, the great members of JAKIB will be getting their 4th jersey giveaway. M. Reyes becomes a member.
Come on,
Reyes,
stop pandering to the people.
Yeah.
We got that Nick Sirianni. The pander in
I will
chief.
pander to the people.
Pander Zander. That's your
day.
new name, Pander Zander.
Yeah, talk about AJ Brown with me. They won't think I'm pandering anymore. We're running out of time, so let's just get right into it now. I'll take the break at the end of the show. John, I'm going to come to you first. Final thoughts, keys to victory for the Eagles, and your prediction.
Well, I had the Bengals winning 31-26. This is before T. Higgins was ruled out. I do think that makes it more difficult for Cincinnati. I don't care that they never won in Cincinnati. I'm not factoring that in, but I've said pretty consistently, we're going to learn something about this team, whether they win or lose after this game. I'm not sure how many games we could say that about legitimately because of circumstance. The shitty field in Green Bay, the poor opponent with the Giants, poor opponent with Cleveland. I think you're going to learn something about this team, good, bad, and different. I until they deal with a quarterback the level of Joe Burrow, until I see it, I'm leaning Cincinnati, and I'll keep it there. It's still going to be a high-scoring game. 31-26 Eagles. Bengals, sorry.
Bengals. I was going to say you had the Bengals. Yeah. Big Sills, coming to you. Keys to victory, final thoughts, and your prediction on the game, brother.
John said something this week when I think it was earlier in the week that this was going to be a game where you were going to have takeaways from, and that it would validate maybe a little bit of Cleveland and the Giant game if they're able to go in here and play well against this offense and this quarterback. You start validating some of the trends that you saw because, again, for guys like John and I, the Cleveland Browns and the Giants, it's tough to get a trend off that because you just don't know what skill set those two teams. There's very few players on either of those offenses that could even start in Philadelphia if you combined the offenses. So what you get with this week is you've got elite players and you've got an elite, I think, play caller and Zach Taylor. They've got a really good defensive coordinator on that side of the football. Me, in my opinion, I think, again, this is going to come down to the defensive lines here. How in the world is Fred Johnson going to slow down Trey Hendrickson? And also, I think they're going to bring pressure on Jalen Hurts in this ball game. Why? Because their defense is limited. They have to do something on run stops, run blitzes. They have to do whatever they possibly can to kind of confuse Jalen when it comes to run blitzes. I think you're going to see a lot more pressure on Jalen Hurts in this game. All that being said, if I'm the defensive coordinator, I make Hurts beat me because I don't think he can. I got 31-20. I even with T. Higgins out, I just think that secondary, you're going to see a quarterback that's going to be about 85%. I don't know what John thinks of this, but you give Joe Burrow 85% completion percentage, and he's leading the NFL right now in completion percentage. He's going to lose that game? I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, this scheme has a history of giving up those large completion percentage games against really good quarterbacks.
Even in the Super Bowl year, John, of 22, they were doing that stuff, giving up that kind of number.
Yeah.
So I think that might be everybody. Pander Zander, who does a better job at pandering than Nick Sirianni. Can you guys hit that like button, by the way, for Pander Zander? Let me get a couple of likes on this show. We appreciate everybody checking in.
I actually think Nick had a good week this week, man. I really did. I thought he had a pretty decent week this week. We'll see.
Well, they won, so everybody's happy.
Hey, John, they won the week before and he got murdered.
I got 31-28. Philadelphia Eagles. And these are
Pander
Zander's back. These are my two bold predictions for the game. The Eagles score a touchdown in the first quarter.
No way.
And Saquon Barkley goes over 125 for a balanced offensive attack.
I'm with you, by the way. I think they're going to score in the first quarter. Might be a field goal, but they're going to score.
Never happened.
Johnny Mac joining me on the Pander side. Let's go, baby. 31-28. I got the Birds winning this game. Going to be a staple win And then, by the way, you get to the back half you get to this win, you're 5-2. You can start to see the light of a 12-win season, 12-plus win season for the Eagles. I don't think the schedule is that hard. This could be a big signature win for the Philadelphia Eagles today.
Yeah, Pander Zander.
Wow, you're not living that one down. I'm
This has
sorry.
been an up and down
sorry.
week. I tell you what, I've gotten
sorry I
more
brought
hate
that one
comments
up.
this week because of my takes on A.J. Brown, and now I'm all of a sudden the panderer in chief. You got to be kidding me. Johnny Mack was the panderer on Tuesday when I was ripping A.J. Brown.
Look at that,
Now I'm the
Sean.
panderer in chief.
Look at that. Look at that. You pandered $10.
There you go. I'll take that, Sean. Appreciate you, brother. This is for Pander Zander. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, boys, final thoughts here. We're about 12, 14 minutes away from kickoff. Johnny Mack, your final thoughts on this pregame show.
Trey Hendrickson. I think he's going to be the key on the defensive side of the football. I mentioned him a little bit early, had 2 sacks last week, 13th game with 2 sacks since 2020, second in the NFL over that span. He's got 36.3% of the Bengals sacks since joining the team in 2021. That is the highest percentage by any player in the NFL. This guy belongs in the conversation with Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons and Max Crosby and everybody else. But for some reason, he's not in it because he plays in Cincinnati. Keep an eye on Trey Hendrickson.
No doubt. Big Sills, your final thoughts on today's pregame show as we're just 12 minutes out from kickoff.
Jalen Hurts has to go from Tyrod Hurts back to Jalen Hurts.
Oh,
he does that, and he plays like he did in that Cleveland game with some balance. He'll come out of this game with a win. If he,
by the way, convert a third down also.
Yeah, there you go. Last week they were terrible against the Giants. I think they were 2 of 14 or 2 of 13.
I think it was 1 of 13. I don't know.
Oh.
But there were 3 for 3 on 4th downs. By the way, all those shitty 4th down decisions, I didn't hear about them last week.
Let's see if that holds up after a 3 botch job and you complete it on 4th down. We'll see what they can do.
Tons of shock, man. Come on.
All right, boys. Yeah. Great pregame show today. A lot of energy. Everybody's excited for game. Enjoy the game, everybody. Johnny Mack, we'll check in with you at halftime and postgame. Big Sills, we'll talk to you on the postgame show. Great show, boys. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Hit that like button, and we will catch you guys later on today. Enjoy the game, everybody. See you, everyone.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech, we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.